Hey folks, Crimson Blaze here. Welcome to the channel and Merry Christmas. With Christmas season fast approaching and my wife asked me what type of gifts I would like this year, I started realizing that it can be difficult to buy gifts for the hammock camper in your life. You know, a lot of the gear that I use that help improve my hammock camping experience is really specialized, and somebody like my wife or a family member or friend is not really going to know what they should buy me. So in today's video, I thought I would put together a top 10 list of stocking stuffers, each costing under $30, that you can buy for the hammock camper in your life. Number 1, a Hammock Ridge Organizer. So this is the Dutch Ridgeline Organizer, and it costs $15. And I really like it because it has two small pockets on one side. You know, I can put things like my phone, power bank, any power cables, flashlight, my inReach Garmin, small things that I may want to access during the night. It also has a larger pocket on the other side where I can put larger things in there, like a can of bear spray. I put my gloves, kind of my beanie at night in case I get cold. I have easy access to the night. And it slides up and down your ridge line of your hammock and really is a great gift for any hammock camper. Number 2, hammock suspension straps. And ones that I really like are these Dutch spider poly straps. They cost $16 for a pair that are 12 feet in length. And 12 feet, I think, is a really good length for your suspension. And what this is used for is helps you to hang your hammock off the tree. So this is a really great strap. Also, Dutch sells what he calls this spider daisy chain. It's great. They sell it by the foot. I think the time I checked, it was like $1.80 per foot. So again, depending on how much, how long you want your suspension strap to be, this is also a really easy, straightforward option for hanging your hammock. Number 3 is the Superior Gear cinch buckle. And you can get a pair of these for $28. And I think these are some of the best on the market. They're really great for being able to loosen and tighten the hammock straps on your hammock so you can raise or lower it to meet your needs. And they work really well with the spider poly strap here. So all you need to do is go, you'd go under, over, and through, right? And that's how you would attach it to your strap. And so here on this side, you have these little hooks, and that will hook onto your continuous loop of your hammock, or you have a little hole here where you can have the carabiner. So the cinch buckle and the straps are essential for a complete hammock suspension setup, right? So the strap goes around the tree, and then the cinch buckle hooks onto your hammock and allows you to loosen or tighten it. And every hammock camper needs some type of hammock suspension, and I think this is one of the best. The next few gear items I'm going to talk about have to deal with my tarp setup. Now, if you are a hammock camper, a tarp is critical. It protects you from rain and snow and wind and just stuff from falling on you while you're in your hammock. And setting up your tarp can be tricky at times, and these next few gear items help me do that. Number 4, Zing It Rope. Now I know this isn't the most exciting piece of gear, but it is critical in my tarp setup. And it costs around $7 for 25 feet of Zing It Rope. And I use it primarily for my ridgeline. So if I use a continuous ridgeline, then I need about 25 to 30 feet of Zing It Rope. Or if I use a split ridgeline, then I need about 16 to 20 feet of Zing It Rope. So you still need a substantial amount regardless of your approach for hanging your ridgeline. But that ridgeline is important because that's how you attach your tarp and hang it from a tree. I also use that Zing It Rope for my stakes and staking down the corners of my tarp. So I put about 6 to 8 feet of Zing It Rope on each of my stakes, and that gives me a little flexibility of where I can stake down my corners, because there may be rocks, there may be roots. So I like having that flexibility of, being able to put my stake where I need to. So Zing It Rope is really a critical piece of gear in my tarp setup. Number 5 is Dutch hardware. And these pieces of gear have been a total game changer for me in being able to set up my tarp easily and quickly. For someone who is challenged in the different types of knots, this makes life super easy in setting up your tarp. So one of the things I use is what they call a Dutch stinger. You can get a pair of these for $28, and I use this on the ridgeline of my tarp. So what you'll see is that I will connect one of these ends onto the end of my tarp, and then I'll have Zing It Rope on the other end. And that's what you wrap around the tree and then tie it off, and it secures it. So you can loosen and tighten that ridgeline really quickly with these Dutch stingers. Another thing that I've used are Dutch carabiners. Again, these things weigh just like a few grams. And I use this in my continuous ridgeline. So when you have a continuous ridgeline, you're going to have like 2 prusik knots on that ridgeline, and you need something that's going to connect it to your tarp. And that's what I use these for, are the Dutch carabiners, and that works out really great. And a pair of these cost $21. Another piece of Dutch hardware that I love are these little tiny Dutch Fleaz. And where I use these are on the corners of my tarp. So for a pair of these, it costs $17. And I use 4 of them. Again, I put 1 on each corner of my tarp, and I'll attach that to some shot cord. And this is what the Zing It Rope from my stake will secure it to. So when I put my stake into the ground, I have that Zing It Rope on it. I will then be able to take it to the corner and secure it easily onto this Dutch flea without any problem. Super easy, super quick. Love that setup. Love these Dutch fleas. They are great. A couple other things I use. This is a Dutch hookworm, and it only costs $5. And I use this for tarps that have doors. So sometimes, when I want to close my doors, what I will do is I'll attach some shot cord onto the end of those tarp doors, and then I'll have this hookworm. And this hookworm, what it does is it goes to the opposite stake cordage that I have, and it helps secure it. And that works out really well because then that closes the doors on my tarp just seamlessly. And I love that method. So if I have a tarp with doors, then I'm going to use these Dutch hookworms. A final piece of hardware that I use is called a Dutch hook. So here is my continuous ridgeline, and what you'll see is I have this little tiny hook on the end of it. And what that does is, so when I wrap this around the tree, I'm then able to easily secure that on there. So that will help me secure it to one end of the tree. And as far as the other end of the tree on this continued ridgeline, again, that's when I would use something like a Dutch flea. So that Dutch hardware is great. Oh, by the way, that Dutch hook, $5 for a single one. But all this hardware has made my tarp setup really easy, really quick. I'm challenged with knots, and I just love this Dutch hardware. Number 6 is shot cord. Again, not an exciting piece of gear, but really helpful in my tarp setup. So like you heard me mention, I use this in a couple of places. So I use it for attaching my flea to the ends of my tarp corners. So my flea will attach to one side of this, and then I'll hook it on to the corner of my tarp. And like you also heard, I use it for my tarp that has doors. So again, I'll put my Dutch hookworm on the end of that, and then I'll secure that to the end of the tarp door, and it allows me to close the doors on my tarp. And this only costs, $4 for 15 feet, so really not that expensive, but really a good piece of gear. And I like it because it stretches, right? This is why I don't use the Zing It Rope for this purpose. I want a little bit of flex, because when that wind is blowing hard on your tarp, I don't want it to be that rigid. I want it to be able to have a little bit of movement, and the shock cord really helps with that. My final piece of gear that deals with my tarp setup is number 7, ground stakes. So I need 4 of these to stake down the 4 corners of my tarp. And these are the Z-Pack Sonic 6-inch stakes, and they cost, $2 to $3 per stake. So that's essential for being able to stake your tarp to the ground and secure it. As you can see, I have my Zing It rope attached to it. Again, that gives me great flexibility of where I can put my stake into the ground and so I can secure my tarp. Another thing I recommend is a stake bag. So this is also sold by Z-Packs, costs $15. And it just helps me keep my stakes together, especially when I'm picking them up off the ground. I can put them in here, I can count them, make sure I've got all 4. Also, there tends to be a lot of dirt or sand on your stakes, and this really helps, preventing all that dirt and sand, getting on my other gear. Number 8, the hang time hook. Now, this is not a critical piece of gear that you need for hammock camping, but it is a fun piece of gear. And what it's for, it allows you to hook your phone onto your Ridgeline so that you can watch your movies, your TV shows, hands-free while laying in your hammock. Because it has this design here that will slide on and off your Ridgeline pretty easily, and then it can slide back and forth. And this cost around $25. So again, not a critical piece of gear, but it is fun. This next piece of gear I need to get out of my hammock and actually show you because I'm using it. And that's number 9, the Diamond Knot Soft Shackle. So what you can see I've done here is I have removed the continuous loop of my gathering hammock and I've replaced it with this soft shackle. And that's great because that eliminates the need for a carabiner. And this can hook on to anything. I mean, whether it's a daisy chain, a cinch buckle, or whoopee swing, it works really, really well. And so I have enjoyed this setup. Number 10, which was my favorite piece of gear in all of 2025. And actually, it was a Christmas gift that I received last year. And that is the One Wind Hammock Storage Sling. And it is just amazing. Cost only $18 on Amazon, but it is a good solution for being able to store your gear underneath your hammock. So for me, I used it with my bridge hammock this year, and I put my backpack in there. I put other large gear items in there, whether it was my Diddy bag or electronics bag or stuff like that, that I wanted easy access to, right? Because I don't want to store gear at the ends of my hammock and I can't reach it, or I don't want to store it on the ground and then it get wet. So this storage sling has just made all the difference in the world, and I love it. So if you're looking for a good place to store your gear, I'd recommend the One Wind Hammock Storage Sling. Those are the 10 stocking stuffer ideas that all cost under $30. And as you see, some of this gear is really specialized towards hammock campers. But trust me, all of this stuff that I mentioned today has made my hammock camping experience so much easier and would be a worthwhile gift. All right, folks, thanks for watching. Until my next adventure, keep on blazing.